Yes, welcome to Tales from the Jails. This is John G. Sutton, and that picture I'm holding there, that was John G. Sutton in 1976. Time passes, and that young man there now looks like this. There you go, it was a shock, wasn't it, eh? Scared you all there, didn't it, eh? That young man has transformed himself into an old wazzock. Yeah, seriously. Here I am. I want to talk a little bit about Wormwood Scrubs in the days when I was a young man in 1976. There was an incident in Brighton in which the police supposedly arrested, it was headlines in all the newspapers, a cell of IRA killers who were over in Brighton, and they got a hit list, and they were going to come into London, and they got a list that had been given them by the High Command of the IRA, whoever that might be, and they had believe it or not, they were arrested in Brighton. They were armed with a World War II army pistol, which was rusted and obviously wouldn't properly work. And they got a list of the people that they were supposedly going to hit. Yeah, these were the hitmen. Yeah, seriously. And they had a list, and the list said, believe this or not, it said things like the Queen, Buckingham Palace, London. Then another one said the Prime Minister, number 10 Downing Street, London, West 1. I mean, this is just ridiculous kind of nonsense. Of course, the IRA, they were immediately whipped off Category A into Wormwood Scrubs, and they were held in cells within cells inside the scrubs. And on this particular night that they arrived, I was the officer put in charge of actually guarding them through the night, and they were inside the cells, and I was in there just between the cell door, big cell door, open space, another like a cage, and they were in there. And these two, there were two of them, they didn't know where they were. They were saying to me, "Where are we, boss? Where are we? What's happened?" They didn't know that they were in prison. They were completely blasted out the brains. They were still pissed. I mean, these two, they couldn't find Buckingham Palace. Never mind the Queen. The only way they got to London was by being arrested and slung into the scrubs. And these Irishmen, they didn't know where they were. So I had to keep them calm, So listen, you're in prison here. This is Wormwood Scrubs prison. What are we doing? Boss, what are we doing here? I said, I can't discuss your case with you. Just know that you've been held in prison pending a trial because they believe that you were working for the IRA. That's what we've been told. Sure, we're not doing that now. No. We just had a few drinks, a few drinks. Yeah. Managed to get themselves arrested in Brighton, transported about 60 miles up the road, banged up in the scrubs, and they didn't even know where they were. And that wasn't the end of it. Just outside the cell, it was the gate that was iron bars, Outside there was another set of cells, and in one of the cells was Graham Young. And Graham Young, despite the fact that he was a highly intelligent maniac poisoner, yeah, he was, yeah, Graham Young was in there having a psychotic incident, shall we say. He was barking mad on this particular night. Not all the time. I mean, most of the time, Graham Young was extremely lucid and had a brilliant brain. But on this particular night, he was barking mad. And he was singing, consistently singing. This is how it sounded. And I was in the cell with these IRA. We could hear this because it was only just outside the door, He was singing, Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer to I'm half crazy, all for the on and on and on and on. Really loud, and it was echoing all around the cells. Eventually, the hospital officer in charge of the ward at night came down. He had this a kidney dish, In that, he got a syringe, went in there, rattle, bang, smash, crash. Graham Young got one straight in the jacksie. Out. No more daisy. But by this time, of course, the IRA are climbing the walls. I mean, these two blokes, I mean, they were no more in the IRA than my granny. I'm telling you. So I said to them, listen, I said, we'll make you feel at home. We'll sing some Irish songs, seeing as we're wide awake, What are we going to sing? What are we going to sing now? So we'll sing Danny Boy, I thought, they're bound to know Danny Boy, aren't they? Oh, Danny Boy, the pipes are calling. They didn't know a word of it. Didn't know any Irish songs, none. I mean, they were just drunks. They'd been snatched off the street and fitted up, if you ask me, because they just didn't know where they were. They couldn't sing Irish songs. What a night that was. Anyway, after Graham Young had been given the liquid cosh, things quietened down a bit. But that was a night to remember, I'll tell you. Anyway, worse than that, I mean, there were members of the IRA there doing things like Lifetime 17, yeah? It was New Year's Eve. This isn't it, really. It was New Year's Eve, and I was the officer in charge of the Segregation Unit at Wormwood Scrubs. And in fact, it was New Year's Eve 1976. It was the 31st of January. No, the 31st of December, sorry. 31st of December 1975. And I was the officer in charge of the SEG. Anyway, it got to be midnight. You could hear the bells of London all ding dong, and everybody's shouting Happy New Year. And all these prisoners in the block, they're banging on the door, shouting Happy New Year, banging on the door. You see the cell cards outside the cell. Everybody had a cell card, you see. And the cell cards said things like life times 10, life times 7, They're banging on the door shouting Happy New Year. What kind of a Happy New Year were they looking forward to? They were going to be spending it banged up in the block. Yeah. The block was a strange place. The segregation units at Wormwood Scrubs. On there, they not only had Ian Brady, but they also had Commander Drewry. Yeah. Now, Commander Drewry was the highest ranking police officer ever to be sentenced to imprisonment. And he was sent there for corruption. He was connected to a man called Bernie Silver. Now look this up, don't just take my word for it. Yeah, look it up. Yeah, Google it. Bernie Silver, yeah, and Commander Drewry, yeah. He'd been taking money off Bernie Silver because Bernie Silver was the vice. He was running all the vice, and Commander Drewry had been the commanding officer in charge of the vice squad, and he'd obviously been paying Commander Drewry to turn the blind eye, you see, and because Bernie Silver was running prostitutes and porno shops and all that stuff, in London. I believe that it was all around Soho, I mean, I had been to Soho, but I must say I hadn't seen anything like that. But they must have been there, Must have been there. I'm not being disingenuous. I'm serious. You have to go looking for these things, not in your face, Anyway, Commander Drewry was in there. He was not a very talkative kind of character. And one of his other officers was in there, former detective sergeant. He was locked up in there as well. And of course, in the scrubs, in the segregation unit, they had this ritual whereby they used to write on the hard-boiled eggs, get a hard-boiled egg for your breakfast, yeah. And the staff, for some unknown reason, got a marker pen and wrote on the eggs And so for Commander Drewry it was bent copper, yeah? So when he came down for his breakfast, he had to pick the egg that said bent copper. That was his. Ian Brady had to pick the sex child murderer and stuff like that they wrote on his egg. That's the one he lifted out of his cell. Seriously. That was a form of like inflicting psychological damage on the inmates. And I'd say the Seg at Wormwood Scrubs was extremely secure. I believe they've replaced it now, but it was extremely secure. And not a great deal of fun. But anyway, there we have it. Tales from the jails. And that was from me. That was about the time I was doing it. Yeah. 1976. Don't forget to read my book, Psychic Screw, on Amazon.